guys didn't show up, it's just me and the presenter. And like,
Okay.
I would still be here because I want to know all the stuff. But it's so much more exciting when there are attendees and you get that vibe back and forth from the audience. It's wonderful. So I'm really glad that you guys are here. We want to say that we love our sponsors. We love our gold sponsors, the Villarreal family, and
Salon Imperial.
Salon El Imperial. You saw it like out of my brain. Salon El Imperial, the Zach Bunt Group are all gold sponsors. And Georgia Roof. Woo! Raise the roof for Georgia Roof. So if anybody's looking for an honest company who's going to tell you come out for free and evaluate your roof and tell you if you need a repair or replacement, that's Georgia Roof. And then our bronze sponsors are, they left, Blossom Creek Elderberry, Infinity Healing Spa. If you're interested in any of these, let me know. I know about them. The Infinity Healing Spa, which is in Brazelton. So if you're interested in doing hydration float, sensory deprivation, that kind of thing, they have those. And they also have a cryo chamber and a cryo wand, among other things. It's like a whole mall of exciting, really cool stuff. And Metro Water Filter of the South, also known as Billy Water, for entire home filtration systems. And Nature's Own Herb Shop down in Hamilton Mill, who has really cool stuff so that you don't have to order it online. You can put a face with that. It's wonderful. So, I'm blind. Ooh, I'm starting with We Are Amazing. We are amazing.
Yes, we are.
We are. Thank you, Jeanette. So if you look at your arm, you will see that you have all these little hairs going the same direction, and that they all go, not only are they coming out and going the same direction, they're all going totally the same direction, like a road or something. And then if you turn to your neighbor, you guys have paired up perfectly. So if you turn to the person next to you and look at them, they have hairs on their face over their eyes going in two different directions. Two different directions from your nose out towards your ear. And they're going the right direction over both of your eyes. That's amazing. And they're not getting all long until you get old. And then you get those random hairs and schnauzer brows. Yeah. So that's amazing that we've got hairs that only get so, I don't have really one really random hair or one going the wrong direction. They're all going the same way. They're all the same length. And your hair on your head is what grows on. That's amazing. That's an amazing structure that works like that. So we're amazing. Facts are facts, no matter who finds them. 2 plus 2 will always equal
4.
7.
Homeschoolers.
Thank you, Peanut Gallery. 2 plus 2 will always equal
4.
4. It will always equal 4. Even if somebody stands and yells at you that it is 5, it is not. 2 plus 2 is always 4. Smart Alex in the back.
In their world.
Facts are facts no matter who wields them. So you may disagree with me or someone's interpretation or application of facts. That does not change the facts. Facts don't have feelings. Therefore, they do not care about yours. Sometimes we hear something new or something weird or something that disagrees with our worldview. That doesn't mean it isn't true. It just means we haven't heard it before. So if you hear something different tonight, pause for a moment before you freak out. Just pause for a moment and consider if it might be true. So, because there's all different kinds of facts and information, and that's what we're here at the Northeast Georgia Science Symposium trying to do, is connect the community with our local experts. So thank you for taking that pause and thinking about the information and maybe altering your worldview a little bit and making it a little bit bigger. So in consideration of all of that, tonight we have Dr. Tucker from Tucker Wellness talking to us about the germ theory versus terrain theory. So,
All right, everybody, I'm here to freak you out, so get ready. No freaking out. Please, don't freak out. Everybody wants to get freaked out. So the germ theory has really been put to the test over the last couple of years. Everybody believe in it? Germ theory? Nobody believes it? Germ theory. What is it? What is the germ theory? The germ theory is what,
Dirty water.
We isolate ourselves.
Came in at the laptop.
No. On. It's me again.
it's, germ theory is Louis Pasteur's idea that bugs, germs, pathogens are the cause of disease and infection. The terrain theory is the tissue is the issue. How strong is the tissue? Can it resist infections? Can it resist bugs? So you got to kind of make a choice or not make a choice. You can ride the fence. You can say, hey, I don't want to be around bugs, but I also want to build my immune system. That top quote, the microbe is nothing, the terrain is everything. That was H.M. That was him. He said that. But some people say that even Louis Pasteur that said the germ was the thing to look out for, to go after, to kill the bugs. Even he said that close to his death. He changed his mind. He said that when the immune system was stronger, the bugs didn't matter so much. If you take a handful of seeds and you throw them out on the concrete, are they going to grow? Maybe if they find a crack. If they find a crack, that's where they're going to grow, right? They're going to get in there. Life is going to find a way to happen. So we want to be the concrete without the cracks. So if you got a crack, we want to try to fill it in. We want to make that tissue stronger. We don't catch diseases, we build them. So what are you eating? What is your tissue made out of? Even with the bugs in the body, they say there's about 37 trillion bug cells, pathogen cells, bacteria in the gut, and only 30 trillion cells in our body, of our tissue. So what are we feeding those cells that make the immune system? There's two major families of bacteria in the body. There's firmicutes and there's Bacteroidetes. And depending on how you feed your body, one of those is going to grow and become predominant. If you feed it foods that firmicutes like, which tends to be high glucose, high sugar foods, we're going to be bigger. We're going to hold on to fat tissue that most of us don't want. If you feed Bacteroidetes, we're going to be a little more lean. But if you feed those too much, you can have bowel problems. You can have irritable bowel syndrome, something like that. So we don't catch diseases. We build them based on our exposures. The government says we're exposed. What am I doing wrong?
You're not.
There it is. I got it.
You got it.
Stand over here. The government says that we're exposed to 80 to 84,000 chemicals per week. They've approved 80,000 plus chemicals, and we live in it, as opposed to this nice clean water where we think we like to live, right? We think we live there, but we're really living in this soup. I was talking to somebody else. Like, you try to eat organic foods, but then you walk outside and you're exposed to all these chemicals. You get city water, it's full of chemicals. You get foods full of chemicals. So we live in this water, and no wonder we start to break down. We're just constantly exposed to these chemicals.
Just hit this big
Is it timing out?
It's me.
So treat the patient, not the infection. That's the motto in my office. When the patient comes in, I want to know who I'm dealing with, what's weak, what kind of cracks do they have in their concrete, what do I have to fill in to get them stronger so they resist infection, they resist diseases as much as we can. You never want to feed the bug. I tell people this all the time. Look, I'm giving you all these foods, I'm giving you all these supplements, I'm giving you this adjustment because I'm trying to make the body stronger. That's it. I'm trying to build you up to resist life and the part that we don't want to deal with, the buggy stuff. So have you heard of the people that actually go after the infection? They want to get infected? As if, how do we build the immune system? We've got this immune system, and we're feeding it, we're building it, but how does it know what to attack if it's never exposed, if it doesn't see that bug? Have you ever heard of families that will find out somebody else in the community has got chicken pox? And they'll, hey, we bring our kids over to play with your sick kids, so they get exposed to chicken pox, so that they build lifelong immunity to chicken pox. So they know the average child is average, healthy, is going to recover in a few days, maybe a week, and then they're good for the rest of their life. Well, so the best, maybe the best shot, according to Dr. Fauci. You hear the thing going around Facebook and all the social media? He says that the infection is the best vaccination. You guys hear that?
Yep.
You hear that?
When did he say that?
This was 15, 20 years ago. Here we go. Just happened to have it queued up.
Yeah, he went down.
She's had the flu for 14 days. Should she get a flu shot?
Well, no. If she got the flu for 14 days, she's as protected as anybody can be, because the best vaccination is to get infected yourself.
Did you see that?
If she really has the flu, she definitely doesn't need a flu vaccine. If she really has the flu.
She should not get it again.
No, she doesn't need it, because it's the most potent vaccination is getting infected yourself.
Right.
Well, he needed the money.
That was a while ago. That was a while ago. No, you know, he says lots of different things, but I heard that and I was like, I didn't know he knew how to tell the truth. I've never heard him tell the truth before that. That's my joke. But one of them. I got lots of jokes lined up. So that's it. We want to feed that body so the immune system's got the genuine replacement parts, and then we want to expose it to bugs. When all the COVID stuff happened, I did a little webinar for some people, and I'm like, you can't hide. It's going to find you sooner or later, so you better start building your immune system. You better eat the foods and take the herbs that are going to build your resistance to viruses, because it's going to find you. You can't hide in your house forever. The mask is not going to stop it. It's going to come find you. So when you walk out of your house, finally, whenever you decide to walk out, you got to be ready. And we did pretty good for people. Germs seek their natural habitat. Sorry, let me go to that last one. This is just basic science. If you look at bugs, what do? Their job is literally to take dead, dying, weak tissue back to dirt. So how strong are you? Again, with the strength of the immune system. If you think about it that way, it's like germs are just doing their job. If you continue to get infection after infection, you're probably a little too close to death. Maybe we need to build some life back into the body so that we don't have to deal with all these germs and infections. There you go, old B.J. Palmer. He developed chiropractic. His dad started it. I like him because he's a common sense kind of guy. If germs were really the big devil, wouldn't we all be dead? And we get exposed to germs constantly. There'd be no one around to believe it. Very, very true stuff. You know, these guys, they thought differently than a lot of people do. And, sometimes it's kind of cool to go back and listen to the way they thought back 100 years ago. They said, one of their quotes was, the first step in healing is the presence of a doctor. So when I walk into the room, you can get better. That's not what they meant. They meant the first step in healing was the presence of the doctor. The bigness of the fellow within, as they would say. How is the doctor in your body working? Can everybody hear me back there? You can't hear anything I'm saying? You want me to start over? You want me to yell louder? Seriously, can you hear? Somewhat?
Yeah, Sue, move up.
So,
These kids may not be able to hear either, though.
I can hear you.
everybody can hear?
It's just my elderly ears.
Uh-huh.
Kids have great hearing.
Come on
Sorry,
up.
Miss
Sorry,
Sue, go in depth.
she had to
How are
do
you
first.
doing?
Anyone else? Does everybody hear me back there? Kinda? Kind of maybe? So their idea was the bigness of the fellow within. You know, how is the doctor inside? They had another book that was called Who's the Doctor, Doctor? Well, the doctor is inside, always. You know, people like me just try to get some of the stuff out of the way so the doctor can do his job and heal the body, right? Because it knows how to. They were big proponents of innate immunity, the stuff that was put there before you were born, that natural immunity. So they wanted to feed it. And their big thing was the body doesn't need any assistance, just no interference. So maybe if we took some things out of the way, like some of those 80,000 chemicals a week that we're exposed to, maybe that would help. So, the idea of how do you build that health? What can we do to try to stay a little healthier? I mean, the fact is we're human. You're going to get sick from time to time, right? You're going to get exposed to something. The bug's going to get you, you know, but hopefully we're going to recover from it. So are we eating those types of foods on a regular basis? Are we going to the store and are we buying foods that we know they're going to go bad in a few days and we eat them before they do? Or do we buy foods that can sit in the pantry for weeks and months and then you eat it and that stuff's already dead before you ever took it home? There's no life in it, otherwise it would rot, right? So we want to eat real food. We got a real food story for you. This is my second go. I was at the bank the other day, and going over stuff, and the lady said, "Who's your employer?" And I'm like, "What's my accountant tell me to say?" "Oh yeah, Tucker Wellness Center." And she said, no, she's behind the plexiglass sneeze guard thing, and she's got her mask on, and she said, "Excuse me," like, and I looked at her like, "Tucker Wellness Center." So then she leans around it and pulls her mask down so she can hear me better. And she said, "Taco Wellness Center?"
Oh, I like it.
And I said, and I noticed there was something different about the way she talked about it. Immediately, like, "Taco Wellness Center? How did I miss that?" Genius. I said, "We're going to need a bigger building. We're going to need to put in a drive-through. We're going to need, Chick-fil-A, they got those people directing traffic. We're going to need some of that. Taco Wellness Center. Everybody's going to come." So, anyway, and then she ruined it by saying, "Yeah, I have a hearing problem. I left my hearing aids at home." I was like, "Oh, I thought you were giving me this gift to turn it into Taco Wellness Center." So, food, everybody likes tacos. So, if we're supposed to be made out of food, how many people like tacos? Everybody likes tacos, see? Everybody wants to be made out of tacos. So, there it is. So, food. There's something I want to tell you guys. This is for Mr. Brownlee. You ready?
Ready.
You didn't know I knew you already, right? Here it is. This is a quote. I'll let you guys guess how old this is. "Candy, all white sugar in its products are white flour, including its products such as macaroni, spaghetti, crackers, etc., should be absolutely banned from the diet of a child. All of these are energy-producing foods that contain no building materials for the body. The consequences of their tolerance are the susceptibility to infections, enlarged tonsils, carious teeth, unruly dispositions, stomach growth, rickets, maldevelopment, and very often permanent damage to many organs of the body, especially the endocrine glands that depend on vitamin supply for their normal function and development." 1938. Dr. Roy Lee talked about that almost 100 years ago. And that's about the same time that a lot of doctors were really jumping on, what are they feeding us? It's changing people's mouth, like literally. No one needed braces, and all of a sudden, everyone's got cavities. Weston Price traveled the world because he started seeing crooked teeth. Lots of dental caries. He traveled the world and said, "Look, these people are eating real natural foods, don't have health problems." They'd never heard of diabetes. They asked, had you use a translator and say, "Hey, what do you guys do for diabetes? What do you do for cramps?" "We don't get any of that stuff. What are you talking about? We never heard of that." So he wrote a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. And he cataloged people's teeth, their bodies. This twin lives at the port and takes stuff off the ship and is always eating these processed foods that come in from the United States. And his twin that works back on the farm that never comes to the city, no problems. The twin at the port's got rotten teeth. The twin on the farm, no teeth problems at all. Inuit Indians live out on rock islands. They eat blubber. They eat meat and fat most of the year. When the greens come in, sometimes they eat them in the spring for a couple of months, but they eat blubber and no heart disease, zero, no dental caries at all. So these guys, there was another guy, Francis Pottinger, that wrote a book called Pottinger's Cats, and he was doing cat studies showing how nutrition affects adrenal glands, and it turned into this massive 13-year study of nutrition. But these guys were saying back then, don't eat that food, and no one listened. And next thing you know, everybody's eating processed grains, flour, sugars, and next thing you know, Mr. Kellogg says breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Eat my cereal, and everybody did. So now, maybe we should go back 100 years and say, maybe these foods should be banned from the diet of a child. Maybe they shouldn't be built on these sugars and dead flours. So that's the food thing. You know, we got to eat real life foods. You know they're going to go bad. You've got to eat them before they do. Everybody's heard of essential fatty acids. Everybody? Essential amino acids. Essential carbohydrates. There's no such thing. There isn't. Right? We should probably be eating a lot of good vegetables and things like that, but These refined carbs, they're killing us. Sunshine, exercise, grounding. Anybody think about these habits when they think about health? Like, how often do you get out in the sun? Do we have to cover up because the sun's going to give us cancer? Or it's going to give us vitamin D? It's a source of life and all things green. Sunshine. It's a big deal that we've been told is really bad for us. Don't get too much sun. But the truth is, if we get out in the sun and you just get pink, your body will turn that sunshine into vitamin D from the cholesterol in your skin. The life-giving cholesterol that we've been told is bad for us. 80% of the cholesterol comes from your liver. It doesn't come from bad diets. It comes from your liver. Now, if you eat processed grains and sugars, then we're going to get lots of inflammation, and then you're going to make more cholesterol, and it's going to look like the bad guy. But cholesterol always tries to put out inflammation. It's the start of all hormones. It's the start of vitamin D. So you get your sunshine, you get your vitamin D. If you get too much, we get hypervitaminosis D, and we get a sunburn. And that shoves all the calcium out of our tissue into the blood, and now we're susceptible to infection. Because calcium is the #1 determining factor whether you're going to survive a bacterial or viral infection. They proved that with the plague. They found that high body temperature and low calcium were both sources of fever. That's what they couldn't stop with the plague. People would get these fevers and they would die from the infection. So sunshine, big deal. Exercise. Who's exercising? Every day. Not many of us. I know. You are? She's the only one? She's the only one?
I watch her.
Nancy's about to start. We talked to Nancy. But I know up until just recently, I was pretty lazy. I would go to work, go home, sit on the couch. You know, I didn't exercise much. Sometimes I was definitely in that thing where I'd go to the gym for a while, then I'd stop. I'd find an excuse, something would happen, you stop. But I read a book called Can't Hurt Me. I was talking to Nancy about this earlier, and it made me feel like such a quitter. What this guy went through with his life, with his horrible childhood, with military service, and the things that he does to his body now, just unbelievable. But I decided, that's it, I'm working out every day. So I started working out every day, and it makes a big difference. That's the thing on my mind. I'll wake up thinking, what am I going to do today? Oh, I'm going to drink coffee first, and then I'm going to go work out. And I drink coffee with butter and lots of fat. I'm a big fan of fat. Like fat, essential fatty acids. So exercise, you got to do it. Exercise is the #2 thing that will shove glucose into a cell after insulin. So we got insulin, then we got exercise, resistance exercise. The best is squats or leg presses. #2, chest press. Big muscles shove glucose into the cells and burn it up. So get rid of your excuses. Do something. I was watching a Joe Rogan podcast, and there was a doctor, and she was talking about some people can't exercise. He said, I don't believe you. You guys listen to Joe Rogan? He's got some good stuff. He's all over the place, but he's got some good stuff. He says, I don't believe that. Anybody can exercise. She's like, no, some people can't. He's like, if they can walk through the refrigerator, they can exercise.
Amen.
Yeah, if you can walk through the refrigerator, do it twice. There you go. You start. And then there was a Tim Ferriss podcast, and this guy said, I got in shape by doing 1 push-up before bed every night. And I'm like, what's the punchline? He's like, no, that's where I started. But next thing you know, I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll just do 2 while I'm down here. All right, next thing you know, I'm doing 200 a day, you know? So it's like, just get it started, just do something. If you go up the steps, turn around, go back down, do it one more time. Something to exercise. Grounding, who knows what grounding is? Nancy knows. Everybody. So grounding is a way, it's what we humans used to do before we started walking around on rubber shoes, is we were in contact with the earth, and the earth would pull the negative electrons out of the body. It's like a big battery. You know, the old batteries, I don't know if it still does it anymore, but if you put a car battery on the ground, the next day it's dead as a hammer. The earth will suck the electrons right out of that thing. My dad used to have a tiny little wooden stool that he kept in the shop, and he would put a battery on top of it. Why'd you get this little stool? Just so the battery wouldn't die. I had no idea until recently. But grounding has been shown to increase white blood cells, help with mental issues, all by pulling the negative energy out of the body, the negative electrons. You guys know Randy Kent? You ever look at him on YouTube? He's kind of off of YouTube now because he says a lot of truthful things and they don't like that. But he had a case where a lady had lymphoma, leukemia. Either way, she was seeing a medical doctor, couldn't get the white blood cells down. She was seeing Tent, he couldn't get the white blood cells down. Nicholas Gonzalez, he died just a few years ago, but he was like the doctor to see if you had cancer and you didn't want to go the medical route. He couldn't get him down, and Tent was listening to them one day, and the husband's complaining about her feet, how disgusting they were. And he said, I said to her one day, woman, go put your shoes on, your feet are disgusting. And Tent was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he went back and he said, take your shoes off and go stand out in the yard for half an hour a day. White blood cells, normal, within a month. Unbelievable. Emotional release. Emotional release. Or is that the next one coming up? Yeah. Emotional release, there's lots of techniques for getting the body to actually deal with emotions that a lot of us don't want to deal with. What's that?
Pitch a fit.
Pitch a fit. There you go. You, get it out. You might as well do that first thing, and then you won't have to drag it around for 10 years, right? But there's actually techniques like tapping. I remember when I first learned about tapping, I got the book or watched the video or something. It was definitely the video. And there was a Vietnam vet who had horrible low back pain, could not sit on the floor, killed him. And he'd been like this for decades. So they're having the meetings, they're talking with the counselors, they're doing this tapping thing, you know, where you tap this thing, and even though I got this horrible back pain, I totally love and appreciate myself. Things like that. Well, they're talking to the counselor, and all of a sudden this guy goes, and starts crying. And he's this big, burly guy that you wouldn't even think he'd know how to cry. And these tears start running down his face, and the counselor didn't say nothing. She just let him do what he's got to do. And he said, I just figured out why. My family hates me, why everybody's mad around me, nobody likes me, because I did so many bad things in Vietnam. How could anybody love me? The next day, he's sitting on the deck, cross-legged, on the floor, zero pain. He'd been dragging that around since Vietnam, and it was killing him physically. So emotional release a lot of times is a big deal. Hydration with salt, again, one of the bad guys. Everybody says salt's bad for you, but the truth is salt is a necessary nutrient. Now, processed salt, the white stuff, horrible stuff. But I've seen people come in so cramped up. One of my favorite cramp cases was a guy who's 29 years old. He comes into the office like this with his mom, helping him walk in. He's in the chair, sitting like this when I walk in the room, and he's just, just killing him, you know. And I say, how old are you? 29. I'm looking at his chart, and I'm looking at him like, what's going on with this guy? He's like perfectly, you know, he looks like he's, I don't know what you call it, but a little more made up than I would like to be. And super white teeth. Like this guy's, I said, what are you taking? Because obviously he tried to take care of himself. I'm like, what are you taking? And he told me the stuff he's taking, and I'm like, get on the table. Well, I got one of those tables that lays you down nice and slow. He couldn't even lay back on it. It was killing him. So I did a little muscle testing. I said, you got an issue with your gallbladder, but that's not this thing. So I went out of the room, and I got some trace minerals. I had somebody get me a glass of water and said, you got to chew these up. They taste horrible. Do it. So he chews them up, and literally one of the worst tasting supplements I use.
Which one is it?
Yeah, I'm not telling you. I might have to make you eat one. I don't even chew them, and I'm like a billy goat myself. If I chew one, I'll know immediately. Oh, that's the So anyway, I said, look, chew these up, give him that water. I'm going to go next door and see another patient. Went over there, and I came back, and he's laying on the table with tears running down his face. And I'm like, are you all right? I just can't believe how much better I feel. He's like this, so I stood the table up, his hands up. And I'm like, dude, all that junk you're taking, he was taking synthetic vitamins. And it sucked the minerals out of his body. So he said, I got up in the morning, went to the bathroom, got back in the bed, got out of the bed again, couldn't stand up straight. The minerals were gone from his tissues, and he went into a cramped state. So sometimes I've had people eat salt, like literally eat salt, especially in the summertime, for hydration. So they hold on to water, and their muscles don't cramp. Quality sleep is a big deal. Sleep deprivation can even upset your blood sugar. And obviously, you got to sleep because that's how you heal. If you can't get into that nighttime dominant parasympathetic state, and a lot of people are waking up at night thinking about things they shouldn't be thinking about, going back into sympathetic, right? They're fight or flight, as opposed to parasympathetic. They're not going to sleep well, you know, and it's going to affect longevity, it's going to affect healing, it's going to affect blood sugar. So these are all things that we need to get into lifestyle-wise to build the body, because we want that terrain to be strong. Germs are always going to be there. Terrain should get rid of them for you. They want to be the concrete instead of the crap. This is a chiropractic thing, as far as I know. 3 causes of dis-ease. Don't you like that word? It's spelled better that way. Dis-ease as opposed to disease. And literally, that's what happens with the body when it's not in a state of homeostasis, where everything's about, it goes into dis-ease. But the people that started chiropractic, D.D. and B.J. Palmer, said trauma. Like a car wreck. Break a bone, something's probably going to be out of place. And you better get it put back in place as soon as possible. Randy Tent, he puts up a lot of good videos. He had a lady that came in, and this lady had broken her arm. I can't remember which hospital they were in. But she found a doctor that set that bone for her. After all the other doctors were like, yeah, surgery, surgery, surgery. She's like, just put the bone back in place like doctors used to do. And the guy set her bone. She said, and I screamed, and blah, 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 and now I'm good. You know, they took an x-ray, it was in perfect condition. You know, trauma. Trauma affects the body greatly. You know, sometimes we walk around with pain all the time. Sometimes we need to get a chiropractic adjustment, and we're not doing it because maybe it's something else. You know, I've seen lots of cool things happen with just simple adjustments, whether it's the neck or the ankle or the wrist or something. But trauma causes a lot of stress in the body. And that's one of the things that can not only make your spine hurt, but it can affect the organs. Put pressure on a nerve that goes to the liver, you're going to have liver problems eventually. When I was in school, we had dissection. And you had a cadaver. We started with a brand new body. And you could go into the folder, and it had the cause of death. And the lady we had the marks on her pelvis. She had uterine or ovarian cancer. And that's how she died. And they zapped her so much it busted her bowels open. So when we started cutting the body open, we get down here, and the structure was like, whoa, that's poop. Don't go any further than that. Like, she would literally, her abdomen was full of poop. But you could go and look, and the nerves come out of her upper lumbars to her ovaries were like pieces of floss. Something had smashed that system, and the nerves were just shut down. So does that cause her kidneys or her ovaries to go bad? I don't know. Toxins. We talked about it earlier. 80,000 that have been approved for our lifestyle. We get exposed to them all the time. And with that, when you get exposed to toxins all the time, you need more nutrition to stabilize that system, to push the chemicals out. Like a lot of people don't know, vitamin C helps the body get rid of chlorine. So if you're out swimming a lot, maybe you should be taking more vitamin C. They make shower filters you can put on your shower that actually have vitamin C canisters on them. And you can replace it from time to time because the C will grab that chlorine and pull it out of the water. Chlorine destroys a lot of people's thyroids. So some of those toxins are kind of easy to get away from, but some of them we're exposed to, and you're not going to get away from them. So you better work on your diet and supplement as much as you have to try to stay healthy. Negative autosuggestion. This is becoming more of a big one, I think. I used to think it was a very small percentage of the population, but since Michelle started doing her fuss machine in the office, you see a lot of people crying coming out of there. A lot of negative autosuggestion going on. That's what they called stress back 120 years ago. That's a cool word. But these are things that really can drag you down. It's like the guy I was telling you from Vietnam who couldn't sit down. It was purely negative autosuggestion that was making him sick. I had a cool case a couple years ago. This family from Mexico, they come in groups. These Mexican families, they come in groups, and I walk in the office, and I'm like, trying to find a place to get in with these guys. So they brought the grandmother in. She's in a wheelchair. Like, you know, she's like, I didn't even get to talk to her because she's like asleep half the time. The medical doctor sent her home to die. They're like, there's nothing we can do for her. I can't remember how old she was. She looked like she was 140 or something. She was like old, but shouldn't have been where she was. Anyway, can you help her? I'm like, pressure. So I'm like, hey, I know you. I know that guy. You know, the rest of the family, I had no idea who they were. So come here. So I'm like, you hold her hand. I'm going to push her on your arm. When I got to the lady's heart, she couldn't hold her arm up anymore. And the whole family is looking at me like, yeah, whatever. So get it again. I'm like, heart, like, so I pulled a few nutrients out, gave them to her, said, see what happens. Like, she was literally asleep when they left the office. I never got to speak to her at all. So, turns out, next time she comes in, she's in a wheelchair. She talked to me the whole time. She's awake the whole time. They're like, she sleeps like a normal person now. She doesn't sleep all day long. But she had already reached her life, and she died soon after that. But she at least got to go out like a live human being, know what was going on around her, because she was starving. Her heart, Royal Lee used to say the heart eats first. So when the body runs out of nutrient, the heart's right behind it. You know, it's going to pull nutrients from the tissue. So anyway, she died. Her husband, her son, had seen me a couple times. So he comes in. He's like, I got this pain. What's going on? And I knew the mother had died, but I didn't know what was going on. So he said, I've been over cleaning the pool and something just stabbed me. Like, I don't know what it is. So I laid him down. I put my hand on his head, started muscle testing. He goes, weak. It was his brain. It was his mom's death that got him. It wasn't the rib. It wasn't his stomach at all. It was his brain. So I gave him nutrients to calm down his brain, to feed the body. The pain was gone the next day. It was purely a negative autosuggestion. He was suffering. Here's a cool chiropractic study. No, that's fine. Thank you. 76 very similar patients. This is just a summary. There's a big study that you can read on chiro.org if you want. And there's a lot of these things. But 76 subjects, they call them. They're all very similar in age, same sex. But they all got one upper thoracic adjustment. They took their blood before, they took their blood at 20 minutes after, and I think they did 2 hours. And 2 hours after the intervention, they called it, the adjustment. I think they call it a manipulation. We don't call it that in chiropractic, we call it an adjustment. But anyway, it showed that the interleukin-2, which is an immune cell, actually increased after the adjustment. What does the spine have to do with the immune system? Well, it's part of the nervous system. It controls everything. So they're showing that adjustments actually can increase the immune system. I had a 2-year-old, this family from Gainesville. This is when I was practicing in Alpharetta years ago. I met the mother, funny story, I was just out of school. And the guy that I was hanging around his office looking, said, this lady comes in with a boot on. She had a bad Achilles tendon or something. She's walking like, I can't remember if it was a boot or a cast. But anyway, she told me the story. I said, when you get that boot off, come over and I'll fix your foot for you. and the other doctor's like, oh, shut up. And she's looking at me like, like that. Well, he just happened to go on vacation. I didn't have a job yet, so I covered his practice. She comes in. I said, oh, yeah, how's that foot doing since you got the thing? Oh, it's killing me. I wore that stupid boot for 6 weeks. The foot's still killing me. So I checked it out. I set her talus, like, bad. Like, it was, her foot was stuck. I think everybody in the office heard it, besides she screamed. And she got up and she said, you got to be kidding me. I've been wearing that stupid boot. I said, your talus was stuck this whole time. I was being cocky before, but I thought that's what was going on. So from then on, they brought me everything in their family that was possibly wrong. Some I helped with and some I didn't. But they brought me their 2-year-old daughter, soaking wet with a fever. Soaking wet, laying on the table. I tell people this all the time, because when you adjust kids, their necks move in directions ours don't move anymore. So this kid's laying on the table, I'm checking her out, and I said, she's probably not going to like this, to the dad. And he's standing there, and I grab this kid's head, her feet are down there, and I walk around here like this. And I start to move her neck. I look up, and he's standing right here. Be careful. I was like, okay. So I adjust her. On the way home, it's a 45-minute drive, they call me back, her fever's gone, totally gone. I was like, wow, impressive. So something in that nervous system was so upset, she couldn't get the prostaglandins out of her blood. Something, maybe that adjustment completely took the stress off and her immune regulation jumped. I had a nurse that did the same thing, but we were working on her nutritionally. She was having to give herself IgG shots on a regular basis, immunoglobulin G shots, because of her sinus, chronic pain in sinus. We started working on her nutritionally, we started getting better, but it never went away. So one day I'm like, you know what? let's adjust you and just see what happens. And but when she got off the table, she's like, again, unbelievable. She's like, look, I can breathe. Just that fast. It was within seconds. I couldn't believe it, but she kept saying, no, no, the pain's gone. I can breathe now. I'm like, we're going to keep an eye on that neck of yours. So sometimes the spine is a big deal. People don't really think of the spine and the immune system. Thank you. There he is again, Royal Lee. Long time ago, the primary cause of disease isn't germs, genes, or toxins, it's malnutrition. And make no mistake, we're starving to death. You can eat as good as you want. It's not good enough. There's too many toxins out there. I think the food supply is way too weak. 1936, there was a group of doctors that did a soil study, and they put it in the United States Senate. It's document number 264. And it says American stomachs are not big enough to absorb enough minerals because the soil is already so deficient. 1936. We've all been born into deficiency. We can't eat enough to keep our immune system concrete like it's supposed to be. We got a lot of cracks we got to fill in. So Royal Lee was right. You guys know who Royal Lee was? He started Standard Process, but he was a dentist. His big passion was nutrition. He went to dental school and was a millionaire by the time he got out because he made the motor for the drills work so they never slowed down as opposed to, it was buzzing along at a certain frequency. You put pressure on it and it would slow down, and that would hurt people really bad. So he figured out how to make a motor so it ran the same speed all the time. So when he got out of school, he was a millionaire. He was a genius. He had all these patents, military patents, but his passion was nutrition. So he started Standard Process and started growing these foods in Palmyra, Wisconsin, because he said the soil was better there than anywhere else in the country. And his thing was, it starts with the seed. And we're going to grow good whole food, and we're going to feed people. And the guy was just unbelievably smart. He really gave us a good foundation for how to feed the body. Here's one of his quotes, too. And this is where we're going. One of the biggest tragedies of human civilization is the precedence of chemical therapy over nutrition. We're trying to kill that bug, we're trying to kill that bug, we're trying to kill that bug, and we forget about feeding the body with food, eating real food. It's a substitution of artificial therapy over nature, poisons over food, in which we're trying to feed people poisons to try to correct the reactions of starvation. A lot of these crazy symptoms we got, whether they're physical, chemical, or stress, they're starvation. Your body is starving for nutrients, and we're not getting them. We're not getting them how we should. Right? You guys remember? Some of you guys are going to remember this. I was trying to put a slide on here of a YouTube video of chiffon. You remember chiffon? The video, the commercials are from like 1974. It was one of those when they were marketing margarine, like Parquet. You're too young for chiffon. Remember chiffon? It was the Mother Nature thing. Mother Nature walking through the garden, with deer and squirrels following her around, and they start talking about, oh yeah, that's my butter. No, that's not butter, Mother Nature. That's chiffon. No, this is way too creamy to be fake. Oh, and she's like, oh. And then she's like, that's not nice to fool Mother Nature. And she goes a light bulb. We're fooling Mother Nature, constantly trying to feed ourselves poisons to stop the reaction of starvation. And Mother Nature doesn't like it. She's going to win. Nature's always going to find a way to bring life into something, whether it's the life we want or not. So, yep. So there are some certain things that we've been hearing about, especially since the COVID thing. Get your vitamin A, get your vitamin C, vitamin D from sun. But vitamin A is a fat-soluble vitamin. People used to take cod liver oil on a regular basis back until the 50s and 60s. Why are you making that face?
Because it was awful.
You've experienced cod liver oil? It still tastes awful. I take it every day. Yeah. You do? Me too. Every day. Every day. But it really is a superfood. Cod liver oil is the liver oil from the fish. Very high in vitamin A, pretty good in vitamin D. But there was a couple of bad studies, the reason that most people don't take it off the spoon anymore out of the jar, that came out of Europe saying that vitamin A is toxic if you get to a certain level. And people are like, oh, it's toxic. You can't, even though they've been eating it for their whole life. It's like milk's bad for you, so we got to pasteurize it. Humans have been drinking milk for hundreds of years, and all of a sudden it's bad for you. So they said vitamin A is toxic. Well, the study was done with synthetic vitamin A, right? Then they say vitamin D is toxic. Again, the synthetic vitamin D. Well, all that stuff's in cod liver oil. Stop taking the cod liver oil. If you look back at the standard process formulas, Royal Lee never made a cod liver or a big vitamin D supplement because people always ate it back then when he was making the formulas back in the 30s, 40s, 50s. But vitamin C, a lot of people think ascorbic acid is vitamin C because the government told them it was. The truth is it's not. It's one of those antioxidant factors that make up the vitamin C complex. So one of the best sources of vitamin C is actually bone, collagen tissue, adrenal glands, not oranges. Oranges are a poor source of vitamin C. These are some of the things we've been told to take to bolster our immune system to keep us healthy from COVID. Vitamin E, again, fat soluble. And when I say fat soluble, it means you have to have the good fat in the body to break that vitamin down. Vitamin D is considered a fat hormone vitamin. And again, remember the calcium story with vitamin D? Sunshine hits the skin, makes vitamin D. Vitamin D and fat are antagonists. Fat's always pushing calcium into the blood. Vitamin D is always pushing it out. So Royal Lee said when you get a little cold sore on your lip, it's kind of a good thing because it lets you know your tissue calcium is too low. So load up on calcium. Anybody ever see children growing teeth? They get sick when they grow their teeth. They get fevers, they get snotty noses, stuff like that. Their teeth are sucking that vitamin D out of the blood. 1% of the calcium in the blood makes up that immune system. It's the #1 determining factor. Am I doing okay? Yeah, I don't know if you're looking at me like that.
Yeah.
So, you were looking at me like, are you going to talk forever or are you going to shut up for a while? But that 1% of calcium in the blood is what's responsible for when pathogens show up. It paints that bug. They call it the calcium wave. It paints that bug to direct vitamin C to come and kill it. So fat drives it into the blood, vitamin D drives it out. So if you go out in the sun a lot and you're nice and white like me, too white, then I eat a lot of fat. There's a product called Cataplex F. It's a flax oil. Or I'll eat a lot of fish oil. And I'll go out in the sun and I don't burn nearly as fast. It's amazing how well it works. And if I do get burned, I'll eat some calcium. Put that calcium back in the blood, and then you'll eat even more fat, and the next day it'll be gone. Amazing. If I go out there, low vitamin D, low calcium, I'll burn and I'll be red for a week. It's crazy how well it works. Anybody ever take their vitamin D? Anybody ever take their vitamin D levels at the end of summer after they've been out in the sun all the time? And then take it at the end of winter when you haven't seen the sun for a while? See the crash in vitamin D and you wonder why so many people get sick around New Year's. I got a friend that gets sick every year between Christmas and New Year's. Every year. Like you can watch him get sick. It's amazing. Like you got to start working on your immune system. Calcium lactate, that's the most efficient ionizable source of calcium that you can get. It's actually a vegetable source. A lot of people think that lactate is milk, but that's lactose. So lactate is a vegetable source of calcium. Essential fatty acids, we talked about them. They're essential. You got to eat them. Your body can't make them. Organ tissue. Who's eating liver? Everybody eat liver? Do you eat liver? Do you eat liver? I don't eat liver. Since I was old enough to tell my mother no, I don't eat liver anymore. But I take it in the pill because when
You made us eat it.
back in the 20s, they figured out when they were figuring out what vitamins were. By the way, Casimir Funk thought that they were some sort of protein, so he called them a vital amine as an amino acid. And then they started figuring out, hey, these are not proteins at all. But they figured out also there were 3 things we needed to reach our full genetic potential: liver, wheat germ, and nutritional yeast. Who's eating all that stuff? You guys eating liver and wheat germ and nutritional yeast? I eat it every day in a pill. I'm not eating the liver. It's disgusting.
Did chicken livers count?
I guess. I don't want to talk about it. But that's a big old chunk of liver. Yucky poo, but it's good for you. That's buckwheat. Who eats buckwheat? Yeah, buckwheat. It's a really good food. Tons of vitamin C, tons of lysine, very antiviral. it's got something they call rutin that holds your blood vessels together. So it stops you from bleeding. People, when they bump into anything, they bleed or hemorrhage or something. Buckwheat will fix it. Help fix it. Unless you're taking a blood thinner and then slow it down. Pumpkin seeds, really good sources of zinc, and that's fish oils. So a lot of these foods, if we just know how to eat them well, if we stop eating the fast foods and those processed grains and sugars, start going back to good old animal food and plant food, we tend to do a lot better. These are some of the supplements I use. This is the first thing Roy Lee made in 1929. I think he actually made it in 27, but they put it on the market in 29, and that's what they claim. But if you look at the ingredients, rice bran or rice pollen is a form of B4, and the government doesn't really talk about B4 because you can't make it in the lab. You can't make it synthetically, so they don't even talk about it. But it's stuff that will stop a heart from arrhythmia. B4, gotta have it. Calcium lactate, carrot root, sweet potato, nutritional yeast, bovine adrenal, bovine liver. These are things we don't eat anymore. Who eats that stuff? He made this when they started seeing people start to have nutritional problems or physical problems from nutritional deficiency. So these are some of the things I give people. Now this is like not big immune stuff. This is just bodybuilding stuff, things we should be eating, but not something that's going to stop some big germ from getting. You never know. It's got kidney in it.
What's the name of it? I can't read it.
It's called catalin. It's had a catalytic effect. So all the foods that we need to build tissue. That's what he thought was going to be his contribution to science. Was I want to make this food. It's all the things people really need to eat. They're going to eat it. They're going to be healthier, and they didn't get healthier because the chemicals kept on coming, and the commercials kept on coming. They eat the meat. You guys know how the FDA got started? There was a company or a department of the government called the Department of Chemistry, and there was a medical doctor named Wiley that ran it. This was 1910, 1912. And he was suing food manufacturers when they would put adulterated foods on the market, and they didn't like it. So he sued Coca-Cola, he sued wheat when they started mixing wheat flour with chlorine to make it nice and dead for you, so it wouldn't go bad. They could make macaroni and all that stuff. And he started suing those people, and they said, we got to get rid of this guy. So they finally started building up enough power, and by the way, the drug companies started making their way into medicine back in 1913. So they got him fired, and they got rid of the entire department, and they started the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. So now the food manufacturers and the drug manufacturers are protecting you. Not really. Not really. But they say they are.
They are.
Everything's FDA approved.
Yeah.
So that was his idea, is I'm going to give you a multivitamin that's got all the building blocks in it. So this is the type of thing that I'm thinking. If I'm going to fix your nutrition, if I'm going to build your immune system, we're going to start with building the tissue, making you stronger. This is the product, and if you look at it, it's very similar. Bovine liver, PMG. Let's talk about PMG for a second. I don't do one anyway, but not what a protomorphogen. Roy Lee took a lot of flack for the protomorphogen. He made it for every cell in the body. There was a, I can't ever remember the guy's name. So at the turn of the 20th century, 1900, his team, he was like the #1 scientist in the world for all the up-and-coming science. His team brought in this thing, says, we think there's a way that the body actually attacks itself. And he said, that's impossible. Again, like the germ, we'd all be dead. Our bodies would attack and it'd kill it. We'd kill ourselves. Stop wasting your time with it. Do something else. And Roy Lee heard about this and he said, but there is a way. So he built protomorphogens for every tissue in the body. And basically it's like the antigen. You take that PMG, let's say you got a thyroid problem, and your body's leaking thyroid proteins because it's breaking down, it's starving to death, it's toxic, and it leaks into the body. The next thing you know, your body's like, hey, there's a thyroid cell down here in my gut, and it starts making antibodies to it, autoimmune. So you take the PMG, and it gets down in the gut-assisted lymphoid tissue down in the gut. It never goes to the thyroid, it goes into the gut, and the immune system says, ha, thyroid, we'll work on it here, and it gives that tissue a break, and it heals. It was genius. And he put out a book called Introduction to Protomorphology. And people jumped on him like crazy. He said it's quack, quack, quack. So now 80 years later, they're trying to figure out how he did it. They call it, if you look it up online, it's called oral tolerance. They won't call it protomorphism because he owns the word. But yeah, it was funny how, I mean, they literally, he put that book out and they went crazy about it. And now they want to know how he did it. The guy was just smarter than everybody. So this Imuplex, I always tell people it's like a multivitamin because of the foods in it. But they call it Imuplex because they put a little bit of extra liver, a little extra thymus gland, and a little extra spleen in it to boost the immune system. It's very antiviral when you support those organs. The body knows how to heal itself. When you feel it, when you feed it what it's supposed to be fed. So that's what we do in my office. We look for the cracks in the concrete. Look for a way to make it a little bit stronger so you handle stuff. As far as the COVID things go, we did a really good job. I can't think, we didn't lose anybody that was exposed to COVID. Not that we were treating COVID. We don't treat the disease, we treat the person. So, but no one that came to us sick, diagnosed positive, got back. We have got a machine in the office called a biocharger. So everyone that had the lung stuff, the pneumonia stuff going on, they're coughing, they can't stop, they get the lung pain. I've got a second door in my office. I'm like, send them into that biocharger. Every single one of them, no exaggeration, felt better from one session of the biocharger. And all it is, it's it's a lot. But when you see it, it looks really complex. You guys have seen it? It's a Tesla coil. It's noble gases. It puts out frequencies into the air. It's got right frequencies. So you can say, hey, put it on this lung program and zap. Whenever you're standing around it, you get that energy. And it literally energizes your cells. So they start fighting. They absorb nutrition better. They push toxins out better. Every single patient that had lung symptoms got better in there after the first session. So these are cool things. You want to see how powerful food is? I got this text somebody sent me. This was just February 12th. This lady calls the office. My dad's got COVID. We've tried the antibiotics. We've tried hydrochloroquine. We tried ivermectin. He's not even getting out of bed. He won't eat, nothing. You got anything for me? He's on his deathbed. She's like, what do you got? I'm like, I think this was like Sunday. So I said, all right, try this, and this. Come by and pick it up. I'll meet you at the office. So the next day, oh, so it was a Saturday because this was Sunday. Have to give you an update. We're really concerned that Dad was going to end up in the hospital. Mom called this morning and said it's like night and day. This is one day after. He was up for 4 hours straight. First time he's been out of bed in over 2 weeks. Seemed alert. He's out of bed and he's hungry and he's eating food. I'm skipping a lot of stuff because I work on my ego. I was really scared we were going to be saying his goodbyes. I'm crying over here. Unbelievable how powerful food is when you get it just right. So I know the family, I know their diet's not great, but I put some good nutrients and some really powerful herbs in there, and in one day, this guy's up asking for food, and they thought they were going to bury him. So nutrition, very powerful. Chiropractic, very powerful. Work on building yourself stronger so that when the bugs get there, and you know they're going to get you. You're going to get sick from time to time, but hopefully we're going to recover quickly. And sometimes you may not even feel it. Here is my last B.J. Palmer quote. Think about this. Basically saying, hey, do the right thing. Stop doing the easy thing. And that's what a lot of us do. We do the easy thing, you know? So educate yourself. Do the hard work, the right work, and try not to compromise, especially when it comes to your immune system and your health. That might be all I have to say. That's another fear thing. I just don't like fear. So, I mean, if it's the truth, great. You can be scared about it, but don't let it shut you down. But most of what we've dealt with in the last couple of years has been a lot of crazy fears. That's my opinion. Things that just aren't true. And it's just not working out. Yes, ma'am.
Why do we have so many people now that have gluten allergies?
Gluten allergies, I think we're fooling Mother Nature, and we're paying the price for it. Wheat normally has 6 to 7% gluten, and the stuff on the market today has got about 28 to 30%. But, so they've hybridized it. It's a different food, and I don't think our genetics have caught up to it
I
yet.
can eat it in Europe and I can't eat it here.
Completely different wheat.
It is.
But they've also, since the mid-'80s, they started genetically modifying it. So it's hybridized, genetically modified, and then they mix it with wheat or chlorine half the time to kill the nutrients in it so it'll sit on the shelf. And then, again, 1900, the number one grain in the United States was buckwheat. And they figured out that they could process wheat much easier. That's when all the cereals started coming into the market. That's when all the doctors saying, hey, why are these people's teeth starting to go bad all of a sudden? They're eating dead, floured, sugar stuff.
You're not pointing to me.
No.
Is buckwheat
Yes, sir.
more naturally gluten-free, or is it just like the natural occurring gluten in
Buckwheat is a rutabaga family plant. It's not wheat at all. I don't know why they call it that.
Okay.
Rye, what else? Barley and wheat, gluten. Those are only 3 plants that have gluten. Barley, rye.
2 times I've been to Israel, both times stayed about 10 days. We could eat breakfast in the morning and never get hungry all day long.
You were actually fed.
That happened both times, different locations, same thing. Here you can eat 3 hours later, you've got to get
Starving to death.
Yes.
Because you never got fed. Where's the nutrients in the food? Where's the food in the food? It's processed out. We were warned, and they put it in the Senate, and they did nothing about it because the FDA controls that stuff. They said, your stomach's not big enough, you'll never be able to eat enough food to stay where you're supposed to stay. Strong. We're slowly starving to death. I ask all my foreign patients, I see a lot of them for some reason, they don't like the medical community, or they don't trust them or something. But they'll come in and I ask every single one of them, where's the food better? No one has ever said here. They always say the other country, and they all tell me why. Oh, in Ukraine, the bread's like, you gotta tear it apart. I'm like, real bread, it's a meal, it's not flour. Or, yeah, we go to the market every day. I saw a lady from Mexico, 62 years old. I can't remember why they brought her in. Anyway, she's like, yeah, we go to the market. Fresh. That was her thing. Everything's fresh. I just bought it. I just went to the store and bought it. It's not painted. The FDA says you can put that red dye on your oranges if they don't look healthy enough. You can spray them. Make them look healthy.
10 hours, no hunger.
Isn't that crazy? That's like the intermittent fasting thing. A lot that's starting to take on. Lowers blood sugar, increases autophagy, natural cell cleaning. And they're saying that if you do intermittent fasting every day, as in only eat like an 8-hour window, so you fast for 16 hours a day, they say that decreases your chance of cancer by 90-something%, like 98%, because your cells clean themselves so much easier. The blood sugar is lower. And the bad thing about that is, they say it doesn't really matter what you eat. You can eat junky food, and it still improves your blood sugar and your autophagy, things like that. But I'm just saying what it is. For intermittent fasting? No. If you get hungry like that, you've got a blood sugar handling problem. Your blood sugar's dropping. You start to starve. But if you're fed, that's why I love fat so much. Like I eat a lot of fat, a lot of meat, a lot of cheese, a lot of things like that. And when I did the carnivore diet, I only ate animal products. I ate no plant stuff except for coffee. And I felt fantastic. I don't do it now because I eat vegetables. But yeah, fat is where it's at. Every gram of protein is 4 calories. Carbohydrates, 4 calories. Fat, 9 calories. 10 calories. 9 calories. It's more energy, it's more food. Essential fatty acids. We think lard is bad for us, and humans ate it for centuries. It's one of the most dense essential fatty acids on the planet. Lard, good rendered lard, or beef tallow, or something like that. And people don't eat it because they're afraid of it. They've been lied to their entire life.
Well, where do you get it that it doesn't have preservatives in it?
What's that?
Lard.
I'm trying to think of, I saw it recently in some little small grocery store. I know a lot of the, what do they call it? Little Mexico, what are they?
Talpa.
What's it called?
Talpa.
I don't know what that is.
That's the name of the store.
It's a store.
Mercados.
Yeah. Some of those, Mexican grocery stores, they like it. they eat it. They make their fried pork in it. They cook it. They use it for a lot of stuff. What are you looking at that? You're supposed to say, "Yeah, I love fat. I love fat." Yeah, I mean, lard does make things taste better, I think, but it's a really good source of essential fatty acids. Bacon grease, real bacon grease. I buy uncured bacon, so it doesn't have all that preservative crap in it, and save the fat. Cook eggs. And today, around 1 o'clock, I ate 3 eggs, a few pieces of bacon, a big handful of cheese, cooked in bacon fat. And I started doing that quite a while ago. I rarely eat breakfast. When I do, it messes with. Then I get hungry. If I eat breakfast, I want breakfast the next day.
Yeah.
But if I skip it for a while, my blood sugar, I get up, my blood sugar's 84, 85. You know, most people, you go to the doctor and they, "Oh, your blood sugar's 105. No, it's killing you. Get it down to the 80s. Get your blood sugar down. Peter Attia is a medical doctor, a longevity doctor, does a lot of blood sugar work. And he's like, he had himself implanted with a glucose meter. He doesn't have diabetes, but he's that much of a chemist. He's like, I want to know when I eat this, what does it do to me? When I eat this, what does it do to me? And he found that we should be around 85, and we eat something 10 to 15 point jump. That's it. It's like if you're seeing that 30, 100 point jump, you're screwing up. You're eating something you shouldn't be eating. 10 to 15 points. You have something, sir?
Yeah, I've got 2 questions. One is, the cardiovascular system seems like it's, if you're eating all this fat and all this protein that you're saying, doesn't that mess it up?
Yeah.
That's what the doctors are saying.
They've been saying that for a while, haven't they? 2020, we broke a record on heart disease, and no one talked about it because everybody was worried about this stupid virus. 690,000 people died in 2020 of heart disease. It gets worse every year. Between 1930 and 1950, heart disease went from 30,000 cases a year in the United States to 500,000 cases. A big jump. What was on the market? What's coming in the market? Keep talking about it. Get off the wheats, get off the flours, get off the sugars. It's killing you. And no one listening. Heart disease through the roof. So then they said, well, let's blame it on something. We got to blame it on something. Ansel Keys came along. He worked for a chemical company, and they just happened to make margarine. And he said, I think it's the saturated fat and cholesterol. So he did a study called a 21-country study, and it proved him exactly wrong. The people that ate the most fats had the least heart disease. So he changed the study to the 7-country study because he could manipulate the numbers. And the United States was in that.
Oh, they worked.
Ta-da! I told you I was right. Put the margarine on the market, get the fats out. Everybody eat your sugars and your grains and your stuff like that. Get the fat, the fat's bad for you. And heart disease went whoosh, and Lipitor hit the market. And now it's drugs in the country. How's it doing?
I know that the stomach really degrades almost anything you put in there or food. What about supplements? So whenever you're taking your supplements, are they going to do with it so that you're able to build on your previous intake of supplements? Because the gut's going to destroy a lot of it.
Well, it breaks food down into smaller pieces, but it should be in the building blocks we talked about that go into the tissue and you use it what you need for. You know? But I think most people's stomachs are too weak.
But it's not degrading the supplements.
No, it doesn't degrade it. It breaks it down, just like it would a steak or a potato or something else. It's going to break it down into amino acids, carbohydrates, and fats, and then it's going to go wherever it needs to go, depending on what your liver does with it. But yeah, I think most people's stomach are way too weak. I mean, one of the top 3 drugs in the United States is acid-reducing drugs because everybody's burping up stuff because their stomach can't break it down fast enough and it rots and it comes back up and they call that stomach acid when it's acids of putrid